really glad to be joined by Justin, and Justin and I met for the first time in Paul last week.
Yep.
And had a little bit of a chat. And the way we're going to run this, although it's a fireside chat, I am very disappointed there is no fire. We do have some red lights in the background to try and assist with that. We're just going to have an informal conversation, and then what we'll do at the end is we'll put Justin on the spot and let you ask him some questions as well, just so you can get some honest perceptions. Now, one thing that I like to do is always ask a very, almost controversial question in here, so watch out for that one. But you will get complete honesty and openness on what's going on. So, thanks, starting, Justin, what's your role at Lexicon?
My role at Lexicon is Vice President of Information Technology.
And how long have you been there?
I've been there just a little over a year.
Yeah. And so, just touch on there, you went through a transformation journey from ServiceNow to JSM. And what brought that about? What was the decision to first of all start looking at moving away from ServiceNow, but then to start looking at Jira Service Management?
Good question. I've been in the last decade. I've spent in manufacturing, and we had used Jira in the past. So I thought it was a really great tool. There's a lot of people think it's just a ticketing system, and that's what they're kind of known for. But we had actually started with the software platform. So we've used that for project management. We had moved into ticketing systems, and then from there we started doing some automation behind onboarding and offboarding with our HR department. So I started this role about a year ago when I moved in first. Some of the things you want to look at is kind of cost. Like, is this the right size fit for the organization? And we looked at the software and really felt like this is a really expensive expenditure for our size organization. So we started looking at JSM, and that's where we kind of started the journey and got connected with Josh, and Josh kind of met me with his team, and we started looking at like what can we do to expand and be better at what we're doing today.
And you touched on a little passion of mine. So I used to work for a construction company where we were setting up a joiners, movers, and leavers desk. And I know from my experience, it was a very intricate process across multiple different departments. So how did you find Jira Service Management assisted you to do that work, do that in real life in terms of connecting those departments together?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of background of where I'm at now, so technically we provide service for Cordell & Cordell. I don't know if anybody knows in the room today who they are. It's a law firm. But we are basically their back office. So we do everything from talent acquisition to HR to IT to everything in general. So the way it brought us together is that, when we initially had our snow deployment, it was very separate. Like, everybody had their own ticket queues. They were all working in different areas, and we didn't know what everybody was doing. So one of the things I thought Valiantys did really, really well was that they suggested, hey, let's put everybody together in one project. And that project, we can seamlessly work together as a team. We can pass tickets around, we can work together. And that's how I felt like we really joined the team together as a whole. We can see we've got lots of great dashboards built out now. We've got lots of visibility into what our resource capacity is at. That's really been the key component for that. So,
are you using Jira and Confluence as well?
We started using Jira software because we actually had it before I joined there. The app dev team, we have a very small app dev team. They were using it before to track their projects. They moved it into Azure. I forget the application they're using, but they kind of moved in there so they could do their deployments. But they had moved out of there, but we moved everything back into the Jira software so we could do the project management component of that. And then Confluence, we moved all of our knowledge base articles out of there out of Snow into Confluence, and we have that be kind of the front end portal where people can go and they can start to search, I need help with XYZ, and then it'll bring up a lot of our knowledge base articles, which is extremely helpful. So
yeah. So I think one of the powerful pieces of the Atlassian ecosystem now, and some of you might have heard this term used, but is the Atlassian system of work. So when you look at that phrase and you think, what does it actually mean? Ultimately, it is about bringing your organization together using Jira Service Management, Confluence, and all peripheral capabilities within the Atlassian stack to actually transform your organization and use it as a single pane of glass, single source of code, low code, no code approach. So are you seeing benefits of connecting your Jira Service Management, Jira, and Confluence together?
Absolutely. We are going to use Confluence for not only like our onboarding, but our knowledge base for people that are going to be trained to start their new roles or new positions at the environment. They've got stuff kind of mixed all over. We've got stuff in OneNote. We've got people that have tribal knowledge. You find that almost in any organization, but we're trying to use that for like internal knowledge base for that. And then we also want to expand it outside of that into the legal system, is that we are providing a service to Cordell. Cordell is, they come to us for everything. We want them to know what each department does, because more often than not, I've only been there a year, but I see all the time, they're like, what do you do in your department? You know, like client care, contact, like finance, you know, they don't know what they do, but we want to be able to provide a Confluence page that's customer facing, that says, you can do this with this department or that department, and they know who to reach out to. Because I feel like right now, like, even though we've made our migration, back in November, I feel like IT tends to be the catch-all for everything. They're like, oh, here's a ticket, just give it to IT because a computer touches it. But and that's not the case. I mean, we often deflect them to other departments, and I feel like having a forward-facing Confluence site would be extremely beneficial, not only to a law firm but internally, just for that knowledge transfer as people tend to leave from the organization. So,
and one of the things you said, you first point there actually was how you see it as more than just a ticketing system, and I think that's something that we do find is a change of perception from what we've seen before. So some organisations are looking at it as it's an enhanced ticketing system, but the fact that you're able to integrate everything together, and you look at that story about joiners, movers, leavers, the legal department, it is actually maximizing the value through basically planning your organization around how you can utilize these components to actually increase efficiency.
correct.
So I think the other big one on people's minds at the moment too, Atlassian, is Rovo. So have you started looking at Rovo? Are you using Rovo? Have you heard of Rovo?
I believe we just started talking about it. I don't know a whole lot about it just yet, but
so essentially it's Atlassian's enhanced AI capabilities. So it goes in different ways. So you can use it in a really basic sense to essentially sit across all of your Atlassian ecosystem and glean knowledge from it. So you can type it in and basically use it as a kind of ChatGPT type tool. But what we're also finding is customers are seeing a lot of benefit from starting to build specific agents to do specific things. So one of the things we've been focusing on over the past 6 months internally is developing a governance, risk and compliance solution. So again, taking that Jira service management use case and furthering it. What we're able to do is build a GRC agent that actually say, well, this is my compliance status, this is what I can do, this is what we'll do. So we've got a kind of pilot program group with our engineering team at the moment, so it'd be good to connect you with them so you can see again what Rovo can do in the powers there, because I think it'll be another just elevation of what you're already using.
right, absolutely.
So here's the controversial question. I'm going to make it very clear. Is there anything JSM that you need JSM to do that it can't do today? Matt, I hope you listen. This one's for you.
And to be honest with you, so I've used JSM in the past. We had an on-prem deployment. We went to the cloud. One of the biggest things that was a pain point for us was asset management, CMDB. And I was just like, this has got to be easier than this. And then we did our deployment recently, and I know you guys acquired a big company. So it's many things that I like to pick on and say, well, they can do it better this way or that way. That was the huge hang up for me in the past, but you guys have solved that by an acquisition. And I was just looking through it today because one of my engineers came over and he was talking to me, and he's like, hey, he started putting, because we're still new to it, pulling a lot of data in. And he was showing me some of the, just the infrastructure, hardware and stuff that he's putting in there, and then show me how they've got them all set up by site, because we have over 100 sites. And you go in there and you can just click and you can see all the assets tied to that location, which I think is phenomenal. And I mean, there's just so much. I to be honest with you, I'd love to like say Snow or somebody did something better right now, but I mean, my experience so far, that's not the case. So
Is that data manager you're talking about? So essentially the layer that's looking at. So what we've found is companies might have multiple different discovery tools, and what was happening through conventional CMDB practices was duplication. So an organization I used to work for, large global telecoms company, you'd have people creating assets in CMDB, and you might have a Cisco MX60, and someone will put Cisco MX60, someone will put Cisco MX space 60, Cisco MX space 60 hyphen, and so it just became a massive mire of issue. And each of the different discovery tools have got different ways that they want to do it, different configurations. So what Atlassian have done is they purchased an application that was originally called AirTrack software, but is now Data Manager that's integrated with the JSM. And essentially, that provides that deduplication layer and rationalization of data, so you get a clean CMDB without needing another source of truth to then pour in. So it's changed its way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been a good experience for us.
Let's talk metrics.
Yeah,
It's a quiz. No.
Yeah.
So, do you? I mean, how many sort of agents do you have using JSM at the moment?
So right now we're licensed for a little over 200 agents.
Yeah. And are they able to work efficiently as a 200 agent strong?
Yeah, absolutely.
And from when you transitioned from ServiceNow to JSM, have you seen any improvements in all of the boring core service desk metrics of mean time resolve, first tier resolution, in-tier resolution, etc.?
It's a great question. So they weren't following any of that stuff back in the day. they were looking at metrics. The only person's metrics they were looking at is the IT department. That's all they cared about. What we're doing now is we're holding each department accountable to SLAs, because we do. So kind of wind it back a little bit. We do have a contract with Cordell, even though we are a separate entity. They hold us to an SLA during business hours. So this allows us to actually get visibility into, are we meeting the customer's SLAs? And even though our SLAs are defined higher than what we're actually held to as an organization, we can go in and we can look at that. The team at Valiantys did a great job. They built out all these amazing dashboards for us, which they use filters to be able to do that. We have a couple that are private that only the ELT can look at, that sees the organization as a whole, but we can actually dive in and look at that. And we can define KPIs, we can do whatever we want with that. But I mean, we're really seeing like how our resources are being utilized, where we need more resources, where we need less. It's really, really phenomenal. We did not have that with our snow deployment at all.
Brilliant. And have you seen a return on investment yet from JSM?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, yeah.
Brilliant. And what sort of so some customers are looking at a percentage saving. So do you have an idea of the percentage saving in terms of resource cost or pricing, etc., that you've experienced through JSM?
Really, all we've done from a cost analysis standpoint is really what it costs us for development. We have JSM, and then what our licensing were with ServiceNow before. I would say that we're probably saving somewhere in the 300% mark. From just moving to the JSM, Jira software and Confluence, and by getting rid of a lot of these different ancillary tools. We got rid of Microsoft Project, and there was a marketing tool called Asana that we were using. Marketing teams moved everything over. We got rid of Snow. There's several different tools that we're getting rid of. Basecamp's not a huge like price point one, but that's another one we're getting rid of. But we get that single pane of glass is the main point, is that we can all work as one organization inside that single pane of glass, and we're getting rid of all these different layers of software.
So basically, you've gone through a ServiceNow transformation, reduced your cost base, you've done tooling rationalization, transformed the way your organization works. So when do you actually get time to sleep? Just so overall for you, we'll do gladiator style. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down?
Okay.
GSM.
Oh, thumbs up.
I was watching Gladiator the other day.
Oh, okay.
1, 2.
Should have made a Wicked reference.
Wicked, I haven't seen Wicked. So I think the stuff Justin's talking about, it's a prime example of the kind of things we like to do work hand in hand. So we've got a very close relationship with Atlassian, as you've seen. We've also got through the likes of Josh and Jason, who you all know. We're focusing not just on this tooling implementation that we've seen a lot of vendors provide in the past. It's more on that organizational transformation story. So, and Jason's going to love this. I'm going to say the J word, journey. So we like to go on journeys with customers. So it's not a kind of quick implementation, give us your money, we move on. We see long-term partnerships, and that's where customers are getting the best benefit from working with us and with Atlassian. So Justin's just another prime example of someone who's maximized the value of what's been able to be done, because he's thinking the right way, the organization's thinking the right way, and they're growing by using the Atlassian tool stack. And definitely a valued partner of ours. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to open the floor very evenly to everyone to ask Justin any questions that you'd like to have answered from. And if you don't feel comfortable asking now, you're going to be here for the rest of the night. I hope so anyway.
Yeah.
You'll be here for the rest of the night. I've obviously got a few from Atlassian, from Valiantys and things just to ask questions. So if you don't want to ask your question now, obviously just pick one of us out later on in the night.
I'll start, just getting started. So one of the things you had mentioned was all the different locations that you have. I think you said 100 locations or whatever. I know you said those move or change, or you're shutting them down or opening them up. So you're saying that was impactful to this, one of the reasons.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah, we have a department called Pier, which is procurement real estate operations. They would go in and we have this ancillary tool that we're kind of getting away from, which is Basecamp, and it's just really task oriented, So what they're helping, what Valiantys helping us build out is basically their own project, so they can go in and go, we're going from perm to shared, or shared to perm, or perm to virtual. I mean, they do a lot of different. They're very, very dynamic, if you will, because we'll pull in and out of markets, but they're helping us build out that. That's the next component. Then kind of our phased approach. We're doing a 3-tiered approach. We tackled the ServiceNow stuff. We're tackling the HR stuff, and then we're moving into Prio. But that's what's helping us with that. They're building out a whole project that will basically send over tasks and different deliverables from each one of the departments in our primary project, and then we can kind of check that box and know that this process has been done or this task has been done. So.
I'm always interested in who your agents are, right? Almost every time I talk to a customer, there's a core group that's expected, and maybe there's some folks that are from a different department or something like that, or even plans to do that. Can you tell me a little bit more about who your JSM agents might be and who they could be in the future?
As far as our agents go, that's going to be each one of our departments. I used to think that IT was the heavy hitter. They're actually number 2. Client contact, or client care is actually our largest agent group. They do all the scheduling and anything they need to do with consults. So a customer will call in, they need to do a consult, and then we use JSM to actually schedule those consults, or if we need to rebook them, or if we're going to do anything with that. Those are all ticket processes they go through there. But them, IT, accounting, HR is in there. Just about, every single department outside of the legal side is in agent.
Cool, nice.
Yeah.
Hey, well, what my company's doing in transformation now. So I was asked any best practices for, say, user buy-in or engineer buy-ins. Who's doing the Jira?
Well, you're absolutely going to have a cost savings if you're using something more expensive, but I really felt like I'd never been exposed to Snow before until I came to Cordell or Lexicon. That was the first time for me seeing that, and to me, it was very cumbersome. I feel like JSM and Jira and all their tools they have in general are very, very, very intuitive tools. So just having a look at it and seeing how just they simplified a lot of things that ServiceNow probably oversimplified would probably be a great buy. Just in general, just looking at the tool. Not only to mention that, there's obviously a cost savings behind it, but
yeah. And Rob and I were having the exact conversation like that before. So Rob's from Pier, and one of the things that he's found is actually the administration of the Atlassian stack compared to the ServiceNow stack. And again, I ran service desks before where I had to have 2 full-time ServiceNow developers to their full-time make any changes. And we'll talk about the lead time that Rob experiences in terms of up to 12 months to make a ServiceNow change, whereas with how intuitive the Atlassian stack is, changes are made on the phone. That's another thing that customers see. I'm not technical at all, and I don't think I could, but I could probably do some stuff in Jira and JSM, so it is quite intuitive in terms of what customers saying. And again, we'll conversation with Rob earlier as well.
yeah.
So he's happy to open his environment for you to try.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of segue off what he said there, that was a great point that I actually missed. A lot of my team went through the Jira boot camp after that. We got some training credits. They all went through that. It was an awesome course. It was held by Digmar, and you guys met, so you know him very well. Yeah, he's got lots of videos, lots of good stuff. He is definitely a fan of him. He's taught a lot of people on our team how to go in and make changes and stuff. So we have made tons of changes on the fly, which you don't have to. That was the thing with ServiceNow. It's like we were paying so much money, and what were we getting for this consultant that was helping us? Like every week we meet with them, and it was like okay, we're moving at, a snail's pace. We're here in JSM, we can go in and make active changes in flows like on the fly and like just fix little issues. And that was awesome about the project is they were able to provide, hypercare is what they called it. After the fact, they were just like, all right, fix this, fix this, fix this. And it was pretty seamless, so.
Little plug from Justin, the Valiantys training practice. There.
Yeah.
That kind of a similar question as Kurt on the, you talk about all these different applications that we're able to, I guess, deprecate and move those folks into JSM and Confluence and Jira. So, those folks might be tied to that system. They might love it. They might like their experience. So, number one, how did you identify what systems those were that were ideal to move into that system of work? And then how did you kind of cast a vision to those folks that say your experience is going to be as good or better than it was before, so that they also had a good experience and comfort level with moving over?
That's a great question. I just have to get kind of familiar with the environment. Like any place you go to, you kind of move in there and see what tools they're using and how they're using them. And I found out, like Basecamp was the big ones. ServiceNow was another huge one. Asana was another one they're using in project management. But I came to them, and what was really interesting is that a lot of the people at the organization on the Lexicon side didn't have a really long-standing tenure, but there were a lot of people that already had exposure to Jira Service Management and Jira in general. So they've worked with it in some capacity. Actually, a few of the guys on my app dev team, they had built out full ones for the book source, and they were like, "Oh, this is great. We'd rather do this at ServiceNow." But I think overall, we went through a few demos. We showed everybody, kind of what the experience would be like. After that, they were all in. I mean, they've had so many. It's really kind of I hate to say it, but it was kind of a hodgepodge of different tools and stuff. So giving them that ability to have that single pane of glass was huge for them to be able to work in that similar space as the rest of the organization. So instead of kind of marketing living off in Asana, because what they would do is they would take a ServiceNow ticket and turn it into a Asana ticket, and then it was two different. It's like you're doing a double data entry, you're working in two different systems. It was really kind of silly. So, but letting them know that we could, kind of get everything in that single pane of glass, and I keep reiterating that's been huge. There's been great user adoption at my organization. There's even been people on the legal side that have left using your nice little star ticketing system. Like they didn't have that before, where they could leave stars and leave comments and stuff. We've seen so many comments so far. And I went back and looked today, and I blew my mind because my last job, we definitely had people leave us bad reviews. And here so far they've given us nothing but 5 stars, and there's even paralegals and lawyers saying love the new system. They just love the front end and how easy it is and what the flow is like. So I guess it was just really kind of opening up the door to, hey, there's other tools out there. So
Maybe just a comment on that and back to the kind of your part about the buy-in piece, right? Because I'm on the front end of all these, so I get to see what people want, With JSN, there's kind of, in Atlassian in general, there's kind of this concept of autonomy with alignment, and so you can give, I think the first step is that the people that in the middle, kind of like an admin from HR or legal that's trying to get stuff done for that team always runs the IT, and then IT has all these admins. You can give them a level of autonomy that they haven't had before, so they can go problem solve on their own. Then they will help get the user buy-in because you've empowered sort of that admin team that's in the middle of IT and these other groups. And that's something that a lot of times they're standing in some line of ServiceNow, for example, they get help, but it's not important enough at that top level. So you can give them some autonomy to go kind of problem solve with you, and that usually gets some traction.
So Elizabeth terrifies me. No, I'm kidding. No, so we're gonna stop now and just give you all time to eat and things. But as I say, we're here for the rest of the evening, and I mean, Justin, you definitely get a 5-star thumbs up from me.
I think it's interesting to note. I mean, there's a lot of folks that we've worked with, right? So when you think about Valiantys and who we are, just working globally across the entire ecosystem, we're the #1 global partner with Atlassian. So there's big names, right? Like Microsoft and Southwest and Fidelity, and even in the room, Panera and Centene. folks and people that we've worked with. But this is just a really cool story. It's really fun because it's a great St. Louis, Cordell, we've all heard the commercials. In fact, we've heard like people that have done like commercials for Cordell we might or might not see later. It's pretty cool. But I mean, it's just a neat story. And you mentioned the fact that you went live just last month. I mean, we're only a few months, right? So this has been a live project. It's been fun. So really appreciate you sharing, and thanks for doing that.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Thank you.